Hello, hello. Welcome to Nuestra Tabula Rasa this week. How is everybody? Lucky, how was your week?
It was great. It was fantastic. I changed my oil today, and I got oil over everything.
Oh,
Ooh.
I had to take a shower. I
excellent.
I didn't know how I got I on the top of my head, but I did.
Is this your usual shower day?
Well, I showered this morning, and then I went out, and I changed the oil. Be easy, no problem. I know how to do everything. Boom, boom, get there, did it, and then I went into the bathroom and looked, and there's oil on my forehead, at the top of my head. I'm like, how did I get oil on my face? But and then
Anointed.
I went to wash clothes in my dryer. Wasn't belt wasn't tur I mean, the drum wasn't turning, so the belt snapped.
Oh,
What happens twice a year, so I always have an extra one. But yeah, it's been a
Oh,
fun day. But I'm all
wow.
prepared for everything.
Excellent. All right then. Millie,
well, my
any
day
oil
was
in on your head?
well. Actually, I was cleaning my stove, and
Oh
there
no.
was some oil that had dripped. So yeah, there was some oil.
Wow.
But
Okay.
I didn't have to shower. I just had my hair up, so I had to kind of let my hair down now for the
Just shake
show.
it out.
So yeah, shake it out. I
Yeah.
mean, there might be like some kind of something cleaner in my hair, but other than that, I'm good.
Well, maybe it's like coconut oil. That's good for your hair.
Yes, it'll
Yeah.
moisturize kind of dry. Yeah,
Yeah. There you go. Victor?
it does
Well,
something with oil.
surprisingly, I had an oil-free week, actually, I think. Yeah, it's a very good capstone, of course, to my week was a Boyo weekend. So we had a great time and some good moments and nothing missing, nothing broken, as some of our friends in chat like to say. So yeah, very good week. Lots of growth. And I will say one thing. Sleeping about the last 4 nights, I've slept really. I've been like having Medusa mornings. If you know what a Medusa morning is,
Mhm.
which
I do.
I learned that terminology about a day and a half ago from someone in our midst. So yeah, I had a Medusa. It's just like every morning I'm just waking up like, blah, what the heck? I guess maybe I'm out there doing the big work or something. Who knows? But yeah, great week. Great week. Thank you for asking.
Mhm. I always have the worst hair when I don't sleep well, though, and I'm tossing and turning. That's when I wake up the most disheveled. But yeah, yeah, and I had a decent week too. Today was a little weird. I don't know, not like bad necessarily, just odd. I know some people had that kind of day yesterday, so I don't know if maybe I'm just behind the curve, but yeah, yeah, it's a different one, but that's all right. So how is everybody in chat? We've got Sarah and Diana and Karen, Amaya, Christine, Autumn, Richard, Linda Jean. There's Lucky. And oh, I wonder who got first love. I bet it doesn't count. Something is just
Why
telling
don't
my
you scroll up
intuition.
and check?
There it is. Oh, it's Victor. Oh, fancy that. Oh, look at him putting his own comment on there.
And it is
Uh,
a true blessing tonight. A true blessing.
Is that the scratching I heard? Because I'm like, what is that scratchy
That was
noise?
not, no, that was not on my
No?
end.
Oh, okay.
scratching?
I heard
It was
like a
earlier.
scratchy. Yeah,
Okay.
it's gone.
And oh, and Alex, I think I missed him. Yeah,
Oh, and
so
Mia is here
the
as well.
gang's all here. Yeah, yeah,
No. Karma.
I got her.
Awesome.
Excellent. All right. So today, and it was a conversation that I had with somebody where we're talking about like feeling vulnerable and doing things that put you in a vulnerable position or state or whatever you want to call it. And the other person was like uncomfortable with that, and I thought, it's something that I don't find all that uncomfortable, and then it got me kind of thinking about it all and how there can be if you look at it the right way or do it the right way, there can be power in being vulnerable with other people. So that's why we're here. Well, we'd be here anyway, but we might be talking about something different. But that's what made me think of this. So I thought it would be a great topic. I've heard of Brene Brown. I've heard a little bit of her stuff, but not very much. I have a former coworker who loves her. Yeah. Um, yeah. So let's start with when you hear the word vulnerability, what's your gut reaction? Is it comfort or resistance or an eye roll or like what, where do you stand on your, yeah, when you hear that word, what does it do for you? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
I would say I'm probably neutral to it. I wouldn't say I've always been neutral to it, but nowadays I just roll with it. I just roll with it now. Because if I'm going to say something that makes me sound vulnerable, then it's more comfortable for me to go with the flow and be myself than it is to worry about being vulnerable with someone. Because if somebody wants to look at it as a vulnerability, look at it that way, that's on them. If they want to turn around and do something to me, that is on them. It may hurt me temporarily, but it's not my garbage. Doesn't have anything to do with me. And it's almost like if you feel vulnerable, then you dive into it. Why am I feeling vulnerable? You start going through the whys. And then once you start going through the whys, then you're going to get your answer. Why am I creating fear here? Why am I creating this vulnerability? So I would say I'm neutral about it.
See, that's interesting though, because when you're talking about it, you're framing it as a negative, like where, you know, for me, I don't see it as a risk necessarily. I mean, I'm sure in reality it is, but that's not something that comes to mind immediately for me. So that's interesting. Anyone else? Millie, Lucky?
It
If
makes me
Lucky could
uncomfortable.
go. Okay, good. 'Cause
Okay.
there's noise back here. Thank you.
It makes me uncomfortable, the thought of being vulnerable. It means that to me it is a chance for being taken advantage of. Um, Unfortunately, it might just be trauma from life. I grew up on a farm, and that's one of the things is if you're vulnerable, you tend to be punished. Uh, you have to be strong, resilient. Um, it may be just childhood trauma, but yeah, to me, vulnerable. To me, it takes you're taking your shields down, taking your protection down. So it's a weird word for me. So yes, ooh, I'm not sure.
Okay. And Millie, are you able to speak yet?
I am.
I am nice.
It's my children who make me vulnerable now. You know what? Vulnerability is letting your guard down and just being able to be at ease with someone. And I prefer to be that way going in, unless for some reason I feel otherwise. But I try to maintain that state of vulnerability and being open all the time. But yeah, there's times that it could come back and maybe bite you in the butt. But you know what? I'd rather be that than be guarded and all uptight and inauthentic, because that's
Mm-hmm.
not who I am normally. So for me, it would be not being me, and in some way letting someone else, or the idea of someone else doing something to me affect how I am.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm with you there. Like I find it not just that it's authentic for me, because it is, but I also find that like it feels like if I can beat someone to it and put it out there, that it's almost like I control the narrative then, you know? And one thing that popped in my head when I was thinking about this is when I had first started my last job, someone found something in the wrong spot or done wrong or whatever. I can't remember. I just remember I was on the other side of the store and I heard one of my coworkers mention it, and I yelled from the store, from the corner of the store. I was like, "Oh, that was me." And she was like, "Oh, like you're just admitting it just like that?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, because why would I not?" And it's it's interesting because like I find a certain power in doing that, in meeting people with that, I guess. So, yeah. I think we all answered the next question, which is, do you personally find it easy or difficult? I think that was pretty clear.
Yeah.
So what do you think that we're actually afraid of if we're feeling that vulnerability is risky? What are we risking?
I think Millie said something that really triggered me is when she said that when you're around people you trust. I don't know if I really have that. I don't think I have that because I have to be the one always in control because everyone around me always comes to me for the solutions. So me being vulnerable, I don't know if it's even possible, unfortunately.
See,
Unless
and I
one day.
find, yeah, because I find people will come to me for solutions sometimes too, but I wouldn't, and maybe it's a male female thing where there's a difference, you know,
But
because it's more frowned upon for men to be vulnerable than it is for women. Women, I think
Certainly.
maybe it's more expected,
Oh, it's more
you
expected.
know.
Okay. Um, I don't know
Do you know
about
what I
more
mean?
effective. I just think like the way that we think sometimes it's that if we don't have the answer, it's like, oh, I don't have the answer, but let's think of a solution together. Or okay, let's talk about this. Let's figure it out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I don't know if that. I don't know if in a man's world, not having that, yeah, I have a solution right away, would be viewed as bad. But I guess it depends on who's asking. I don't know. Because like you and my boss, if my boss will ask me, I'm like, I don't know. Let's bounce some ideas and see.
Hmm.
It, I don't have it. Like let me think
Hmm.
about it and get back to you on that. It doesn't require an answer right away anyway. So that's usually the best way to answer too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, why am I getting an ad?
I don't know.
Really?
I don't even,
Yeah,
Oh, how rude.
that's really weird.
That is weird.
Oh, oh, maybe I clicked next or something because another video just started. Okay. It's
That's
like,
even more
that's not
rude.
us. Yeah.
Who are you watching at this
Where
time
did
if
we
it's not
go?
us?
Where did we go?
You're hosting.
That's so funny.
Hello to everyone
Sorry,
coming
let me
in.
just find us again. There we go. Oh, who did we gain? Oh, Misha's here.
Misha's here now.
Awesome.
Diana, I hadn't seen before. I don't
Diana.
know if you had said her name.
I think I did, but you never know. Oh, I didn't say hi to Millie.
No, hi, how you doing?
No. Yeah. Hi. Great. Thanks. Thanks for asking. All right. So do you think that fear comes from new experiences or things that we've internalized?
Ask that one more time, please.
Do you think that the fear comes from real experiences or things that we've internalized?
what fear?
Ooh.
I'm not sure where you came.
Invulnerability, in being
The
vulnerable.
fear of being vulnerable. And I love that quote from Karen. Yeah, that's interesting. Anything that's like female or feminine is seen as the the weaker state, right? Anyway, yeah. So do you think that the fear of vulnerability comes from real experiences or things we've internalized?
I'd probably go with. Here, I'll jump. I'll go ahead and go. I would say it's probably things we've learned, and then we probably learn them and then internalize them.
Hmm.
Because I was part of an organization that fed on vulnerability. There we go. Sorry about that. I While I was in the military, you would never publicly show vulnerability because it'd be fed upon. Because it's just that's the way what I was involved in. That's the way it operated. Not a lot of tender moments. I mean, we cared about one another and things like that, but it was never there was never any way of being vulnerable to one another ever. Because anytime you showed it or represented it in some way, it would get fed upon almost instantaneously. So, and it's about maintaining your bearing all the time. And then vulnerability would show that, hey, you're not maintaining your bearing. And so, yeah, I would say it's something you experience, but you learn from that experience. I would have to go that route.
That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah,
I could see
yeah.
prison being another place that you wouldn't want to be too
Oh,
vulnerable.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jimena and Clint are here.
Cool. Hi, guys. I
Yeah.
would say for myself, it would be a learned experience, So if I go into a situation and I'm noticing patterns of behavior that I recognize in other people, then that may or would cause me to refrain and not be as vulnerable with that person because I have learned and I've worked it out in my head that, hey, you know what, when they behave like that, that's a red flag. So just, be cautious.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Lucky?
I don't see it as fear. I just see it as irritant, or it just not a fear thing. I don't see fear in it. I just don't think it's possible to not for me to
What,
be.
so, because you mentioned maintaining control and that being part of how you maintain control, and behind that need to control is often at least a little bit of fear, right?
It's annoyance more than anything else because if I'm not in control, it means I'm going to be wasting time because people are incompetent. I'm afraid of people being incompetent, I guess. I'm very self-sufficient. I learned to be self-sufficient for a long time, so relying on other people is not something I'm used to. So it's not a fear thing. It's just I am used to doing things myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the fear. So you're mentioning fear, and I don't see fear. I just think it's more of I've just been doing it so long. It's just easier for me.
I think there's also different types of vulnerability too. So for me, like I don't fear it. Um, but for me, it's almost the opposite because it's like, I thought of one time when I was a kid and I had lost, I couldn't find one of my shoes for church and looked everywhere, couldn't find it. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be in trouble. So I consciously started crying and went to my mom and said, I can't find my shoe. And like, it was this not practiced, but that was a learned behavior in the opposite direction, where if I went to her vulnerable and upset, that it would be better. It would be like, well, then you're not going to get in trouble because then she's going to feel bad for you. And it worked. It worked like a charm. So,
Did you ever
it can
find the
kind
other
of,
shoe?
yeah, I think it was like way under my bed or something. And she bought me new ones that were exactly the same because she's like, oh, you must have really loved them because you were crying so hard.
That's funny.
Uh,
Good night, Carl.
and yeah, like person to person, like if somebody had wronged me, then I would learn, that wasn't a situation where I maybe should have been vulnerable. But for me, it's more of like
Oh,
meeting people there. And I think that's where like we define it differently, Lucky. Like for me, when I think of being vulnerable, I think of, being really open with my feelings, wearing my heart on my sleeve kind of thing. And and, you know, basically telling people things before they ask sometimes, where for you, you're thinking of it more as, since you're helping people, you have to maintain that kind of that level of control over the situation in that situation. Do you agree?
I believe it's much more complicated than that,
Well,
unfortunately.
well, of course.
It's not me helping people, it's people not doing and knowing that I'll do it because and I'll do
Mm,
it because I'm just so sick of wasting time. I want to get it done. I like efficiency. I like getting things done. I don't like putting things off. And
mm.
a lot of people just, he'll do it. And unfortunately, it's not a fear thing. It's just I
I
like
think
getting everything done.
when I say fear, like I think of it in the conversations with God kind of definition, where love is expansive and fear is contracting. So that's why they kind of put them as opposites in that book, because
But I'm monitoring. I'm monitoring NTR and from from my TruthWave account. Both of them are spinning right now.
and people in the
Oh.
chat are saying too.
Oh,
Oh,
Oh, because we're all running off of you, and you're got tornado watches, right? You got weather. Maybe
Yeah, but
that's
the
why.
weather's already kind of passed. It's really bad up in Kansas.
Oh.
oh, back
Okay.
live. Richard just said.
Now we're
Okay,
getting because our viewers dropped down to 5 from 21, and now they're starting to come back in. Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Cerebellum's back, and looks like Misha's back. Richard.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Christine says now it's moving. Okay, good, good,
Okay.
good. It's not
All
you,
right.
Diana.
Do we need to recap all the really cool stuff we just spoke about?
Oh,
No, never
so
mind.
much.
I don't know when we lost everyone.
Me either. We've said so much to know. Oh, um, but different types of vulnerability. Is that what you were saying though before, or no?
That's one thing that I was talking about
Okay.
earlier. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, the fear versus love thing as a as a kind of defining back emotion, for lack of a better word. Like, everything that we do has to have a motivation that's either love or fear, and that's why Conversations with God calls those opposites. It's like, is it an expansive reason or motivation or feeling, or is it contraction? Because contraction would be that fear energy, which isn't always like, ooh, I'm scared. It's just, this isn't good for me for whatever reason, or doesn't feel good for me. Oh yeah, so Diana just confirmed that's where we left off. Oh, what are you laughing at now?
I'm gonna put it up here.
I have something actually that I
Chat, do you realize?
experienced on Thursday with that. So so we were at a game, and they had
or
real
asking,
bathrooms.
or asking for toilet paper from the stall
Yeah.
next to you.
So I meet somebody walking into the restroom. A nice lady, she was there for the other team. I was like only one of two families there for the visiting team. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And we're having this conversation. And what I thought was so funny, but like so laid back about her, is that we each went into our own stall and we got started. And the whole time, we're just talking like nothing. It turns out later that she's a nurse. So maybe that's why.
Oh,
But
there you
I'm not a
go.
nurse.
Yeah,
But I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. So we're just talking. And I thought that that was really funny. And it was only after I left the bathroom that I was like, oh my God, I never would think that I could really meet someone and my first conversation with them would be while peeing. And we
that's
had a
so funny.
perfectly great conversation. It was hysterical. Yeah. So,
It just reminds me of being at raves. Like, everyone in bathrooms is super friendly at a rave. That's just the best place to meet people.
Maybe in the
uh,
girls' bathroom.
I was just gonna say, well, if it's like it
They're like
is
everybody's
here, yeah,
bathrooms. At a
unisex
rave,
bathrooms.
at a rave, nobody cares, and everybody goes in everybody's bathroom. The women usually go in the men's because there isn't a big lineup,
No, they
and the
have
men
really
go in
good
the women's
bathrooms.
just to hang out.
Literally.
Okay.
Uh, no.
No, that's no.
No, those stalls are busy. I wouldn't
Wow.
want to meet somebody like that.
Anyway,
That's not a good way to meet somebody.
and then you were also talking, Millie. Do you remember what you said? Did you want to recap?
About how when you're emotionally vulnerable, it could also be when you are taking a chance on something new or different, or surrendering something. Let's say, right? So
Hmm.
you're surrendering something that you know you're very comfortable in to go right. A lot of people are doing this right now. That's why it comes to mind. And you're saying, well, I'm gonna just leave that behind and I'm gonna go off and start something new, right? Like the fool starting the new journey,
Hmm.
and you don't know what's going to happen, but you're just trusting that it's got to be better than when you are, so you're going to go for it, and it's being vulnerable because you're vulnerable to it may or may not work out, but I think that that's also dependent on how you think.
Because it may not
Hmm.
actually feel vulnerable to you when you're doing it, because you could just be going with the flow and, hey, I'm going to go and be the fool, go play the fool's journey, and just throw it to the wind.
Exactly.
And I guess that vulnerability is in there somewhere. So to answer the question of the episode, is there power in vulnerability? Because I was just about to get on that, but boom, right there, Millie, and you
There you
just kind of
go.
addressed it, because you're not realizing the vulnerability that you're experiencing, but you're open to it if it happens. That's pretty cool. That's a good realization right there.
There you go. Boom.
Mm-mm-mm. Okay, so a lot of us walk around in our roles, the strong one, the funny one, the one who holds it all together. So, what mask do you feel that you've worn for most of your life, if you feel comfortable sharing? This can be a sensitive one, perhaps.
Well, I have already said that I'm the one who holds everything together. I'm the one I'm the
Hmm.
fixer. I've always got the solutions. Everyone comes to me with the solutions. That's it.
A role that you wear often but you don't like to wear,
No,
or
not necessarily, but like an identity that has been bestowed upon you or that you have taken on, perhaps, is a better way to think about it.
I don't know, because I was gonna say the leader, right? Because I
Hmm.
was always the oldest. I always had to figure it out. I had to be the resilient one. I was the one that had to keep going when everyone else was falling apart. So it was like, I'm the one that's used to, come on, let's go. And I'm very good now with crisis mitigation and working under chaos because I very much so had to do that from the time I was very young. Did I like it at the time? No. But has it given me a good skill that I think has become very useful, though it shouldn't? And that's not
Hmm.
something to
Hmm.
brag about, right? Because it's not like, you strive to be, living a more peaceful life, but because of the circumstances of how things were, always I'm very good, even at work. It was always oh, well, we'll ask Millie, what do you think about this? How would you do it? Oh, okay.
Hmm.
And I didn't need to sit down and have a little notebook and think, like, I was good at thinking like that, on the spot, and just getting us to the next level. So did I always enjoy it? No, because it's stressful, because it's after everything passes that you're like,
Hmm.
but it's good because I was able to keep going when others were caving.
Yeah, yeah. I think now you've probably moved into a much different role because I see you much differently, like in our community, and you bring people together and you're kind of the connector, you know?
Because given the if
And
you're
we
right, left to
change,
my
right?
no
Yeah,
left
yeah,
to my own
yeah.
devices, I'm the social butterfly, and I want to be like, hey, what's up, and what are you doing, and and
Hmm.
there are times too that even with that, there's sometimes that I'm just like on overload and I get overwhelmed and I just need to, and definitely at the end of my day I just need to, but I'm friendly like that, and yeah, I'm just like, hey, what's up, and I genuinely enjoy living in a more relaxed state and enjoying life rather than being
Of
like go go
course.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if that
Yeah.
answered your question, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading that and I don't understand the question.
Okay. What did it say? Where is it?
Oh, here, I'll put it back up to you.
In a,
Yeah, I will read it. Lucky not to throw something at you in a mean way. Well, I didn't think this was mean at all, but okay. Curiosity and love, rather. Okay, long. What will happen if life gets in the way someday and you are no longer able, if it's just a moment, to hold it together? That is impossible because my mind is always, I've always got four solutions to any problem. It's instinct. It might be just so much of my life early was trauma that I always have to have something in mind, something to move together, and I rely on it. I don't know. This is a weird question because I don't. My mind is always active, and my wife and I have had conversations about that where she can sit there and have nothing, have a blank head, no voices, no thoughts, just sit there in quiet solitude. I cannot. I sit there. I've got four conversations in my head, four voices having a conversation. So if you can't hold it together, which means something happens and I don't have a solution, even a bad solution, no, I always have something. I don't know.
She probably brings great peace to you, Lucky, by being
mm-hmm.
around her in that regard, because
It,
you're not feeling all of that stuff that she's experiencing or not experiencing. So you feel that void from her in a sense. And this is not saying anything that your wife is a void. It is just simply she's not sitting there bombarding you with all this empathic energy all the time. Really interesting.
there's a balance. Yeah.
I one of the times when I heard about people not having an inner voice, I asked her about it. She says, "Well, I'm not like you. I don't talk to ghosts." I'm like, "No, it's my voice in my head." And she goes, "What are you talking about?" And she had no
Hmm.
concept of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, so she can sit there in a car and be blank, thinking about nothing. And to me, I'm planning on what we arrive, what we're going to do. We're going to look for parking places. What how we're going to walk through the store. I mean, a lot of people that they can't live like that. That's just tons of stress. But for me, that's peace. Knowing everything that I'm going to do, it brings me great peace. But for her, it would drive her crazy if I ever told her what I was going to do, my plans. Okay, she has indicated that I drive her crazy, that I always have plans for everything, that we're going to walk through this door, we're going to hit there, and we're going to end up, and we're going to finish up at the other side. That's finish. It's quick, it's streamlined, and she just that's no, we can go anywhere. I'm like, no, we can't. We got to go here, here, and here. Does that make sense?
Oh my,
But for
that
her, it's
must
like
be fun.
that's insanity. That might be the problem. So vulnerable might be an impossibility because I'm always having all these plans. So not having any plans. Hmm. A day with no plans. Hmm.
Dude, my life would drive you crazy, Lucky.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
I have a vacation week coming up. Maybe I should plan a day where I have nothing.
Plan a
Yes.
week where you have nothing. I dare
No,
you.
that's ridiculous.
No.
That is ridiculous. There's absolutely positive
Oh my
no
God.
no way a week.
Oh,
Oh,
uh,
that's fear. That's the thought of having a
there's
week
your
of nothing.
vulnerability.
That is
yeah.
fear.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is fear.
Yeah. That is it. That is it.
I'd like to interject something here too concerning vulnerability, and Jimena brought it up and got my ganglia twitching on this.
Mm-hmm.
That is being vulnerable. If I'm vulnerable with someone, I don't think about the hurt, the potential of hurt. That's not
Mm.
my go-to. I think of I'm sharing something with you, and so this is setting the bar. I look at it this way, not for you to share something as equally vulnerable, but I'm looking at it as here's the bar. I just set this bar with you, and now it's one of those lines. It's kind of like a line in the sand that if you cross that line or screw me over on that line, so it's more or less, it's not a hurt thing. Yeah, it might hurt depending on the person situation, but it's more of a trust thing because I know that I was vulnerable with this person and they're like, oh yeah, it's forgotten. It's forgotten. Thank you for sharing that with me. And it's forgotten. And it's not so much about the response, but it is about, it's not me worrying about being hurt by it, but it is more so that I am entrusting that person. So that is far more important to me is trusting people than it is about being vulnerable with them, I think. Just having that trust. Because then once that trust is violated, then everything else goes away. Then I don't have to worry about being ever hurt by them again because I'll never be vulnerable with them again.
Yeah, because then you're crossing into the whole betrayal thing too, because that's a form of betrayal.
Yeah. Yeah, I also, let's see if I can do this. No, I can't. Okay, I thought I could put a comment on the screen.
You can.
Jimena, also, how come it's not letting me? What do I have to do? I just click it and then nothing happened.
When you put your mouse over it, is it showing?
Well, I'm on my phone, so I'm using my finger, and I touch it and nothing happens.
I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. So Jimena's comment is, my question would be, is being open and caring the same as being vulnerable? And I don't think that open in some senses, because that openness can carry vulnerability, but it kind of depends what it is that you're being open about, in my humble opinion.
I think it is the same.
You think so?
Yeah, because if you're being open and caring, let's say like you're even like concerned for someone, concerned for their feelings, and then the person's like, oh, well, hey, someone's paying attention to me now. Let's just, hey, and what about this and this, and I've got this going on and this going on. So you are being caring and you're caring for someone, but then you're vulnerable because the person could come and just trauma dump on you and do all those things if you don't put a stop to it or mess with you with manipulation, emotional manipulation I'm talking about. Yeah.
Well, and also even just caring is opening your heart, and it's giving that little piece of you to that person. And even though it's not maybe something they asked for or whatever, that's still it's still vulnerability in the grand scheme of things.
Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying not to do it.
No. Yeah, no.
I'm just saying.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm just looking at it from another angle yet too, because if you care about somebody, it's a vulnerability that's not really stated as such, but yet if you're giving that little piece of your heart away, then it is. You know?
Which is kind of like what I said before. I was like, oh, my kids are my vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because you love them so much, but at the same time, you're like, what are you doing to me here? You know what I mean? So it's like, that's,
Yeah.
Like that.
So where do you draw the line between vulnerability and oversharing? Sorry.
No. Okay, so do you have something in mind?
Go ahead, Nelly. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if someone's going through something and you want to be like, well, listen, I understand what you're going through. I have been through something like this and it made me feel like this. So like if you want to show someone how you understand or show someone a different side of it or something like that. But while you're sharing that experience, it doesn't mean that you have to share every other experience. And you're also not trying to make it about you. You're how can I, if you're reaching out to someone, how can I help this person go through that experience? That's a situation where I would think that I would share, or maybe I might just share anyway, just because I want to share a story with someone or my friends and be like, hey, and they may be well received, they may not care. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter. Like I chose to share it anyway. So whether they're like, oh my God, that's so cool, or whether like, and skip over it, it doesn't matter. I shared it with them. You know what I mean? So it
Hmm.
was just
Hmm.
more about me sharing rather than the response I was going to get. And then oversharing would be, just going above and beyond that. And it's just,
Well, it's because I have to admit that I have those times where, because I just, I talk. And then sometimes afterwards I look back and go, I don't know if they needed that story. That's a little weird, Trista. And it
I think it's
happens
all in
pretty
context.
regularly. And I just kind of move on. Sometimes I'll go back and be like, I'm sorry, that was weird. But I try to avoid doing that these days.
What, saying I'm
Um,
sorry or doing the story?
the apologizing afterwards, not the doing
Yeah.
the story. I still do that.
Yeah, but you have the whole Canadian thing going, so you get a pass. Mega loud shout out,
Oh, okay.
Stacy.
Stacy's awake.
Oh,
All
Stacy.
right.
Awesome.
That's a good point, too.
Uh,
Sarah Bellin brings up.
Yes.
Sometimes you need to know if they are looking for feedback or just a vent. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
I just
I've
need an
learned to
ear.
ask.
yeah, yeah. A lot of times I'll just full on ask, okay, what are you looking for here?
Do you know who taught me that? Conversations with Christy. She taught me that.
Mm,
Really?
And
Oh,
yep,
fun.
one day she was saying it and I was just like, it was like mind blowing to me because I just thought that, you know, I don't know. I got so used to people trying to help me other than to listen to me that I didn't realize that, like, hey, that's an option. Just yet I would think it. I thought, I just want you to listen. I don't want you to tell me an option. But I didn't never
mhm,
reverse it the other way,
mm.
which is interesting.
Does anyone else have anything to add on the oversharing? Because we can move on to,
No?
yeah.
Well, oversharing is a trick. It's if you're oversharing, you could also you could also be trying to make people think you're more identifiable.
Mm,
Proving to them that you're like them. Um, Oversharing usually is a coping mechanism. I'm usually the sounding board. People come to me and yes, listen. You don't need solutions. You never. Mo, I would say 75% of the time is people aren't looking for solutions. And when they start talking to you and you just identify with them and compassionately listen, and usually if you don't give them an answer, they don't care. Then if they want an answer, they'll ask, well, what do you think about this?
There's something too with oversharing that you just triggered there's that means something. I forget what it means when you overshare. People pleasing. There you go.
mm,
There it is. Sarah, thank you.
that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, so do
Ooh,
you, oh,
Diana's
what was that?
last statement. Are you part of the problem or the precipitate? Are you,
Precipitate?
yeah, precipitate.
Oh, I slept during chemistry. It was at 7:30 in the morning. I wasn't up at that time. I was there, but not.
So hang on here. Do you trust people more when they're open, or does it ever push you away?
I think that comes down to all your experiences with that person more so than them being vulnerable with you. Because if it's about vulnerability, then it becomes kind of tit for tat. Oh, well, I was vulnerable. I shared this with you, so you need to share that with me. And oh, well, I shared this too. So no, I don't think. I think it's all experiences because you can be really good friends with somebody and you play tennis with them a couple times a week or once a month, and you're pretty good friends, and you have a certain level of friendship there, a certain level of trust, just because of what you've gleaned from playing tennis with them.
Hmm.
And then sometimes some, what's that saying? Read the room. Who know your audience. And if you're always in a foursome twice a week or once a week for tennis, and you may not speak about certain things because that's not what you speak about at tennis. And I think
Yeah,
that's a very
yeah.
good skill, a social skill to have, because if you're sitting around the tennis club after playing tennis and you guys usually have a meal and some drinks or something like that, then usually the conversation is going to be about tennis or pro tennis or something along those lines. We're not going to definitely not talk about stupid politics. We're probably not going to talk about religion either. So, boom, there's two topics right there you can eliminate. And most likely it's going to be something about tennis. So, or it could be about golf too, because a lot of people that play tennis play golf. So, and it's about reading the room.
And I was thinking if you play tennis with them that often too, they'll know what your weaknesses are too. So if you go to play with somebody else, oh, you got to watch because when he does this and it's not so good.
And what was your question again?
Uh,
Did we answer it?
uh, do you trust people more when they're open, or does it ever
Oh,
push you away? But yeah, I agree that it depends on the situation.
Yeah, I think it's
I think
neutral.
I tend
Depends on
to
their
trust.
energy.
Yeah, and I tend to be quite trusting, so I guess it's not a surprise. But like when people are more open, then for me it's easier to trust them too, and because then I know them better, right? Like, if they're just a person with no backstory, I think it's harder for me to, yeah, to if I don't know them, then how can I
I
be
think that it
that
also depends
trusting?
on their
But then
energy.
at this, but then at the same time, like I've said before, I tend to be open by a default. So I guess it kind of depends.
but Millie, you just hit the $1,000 thing for pretty much everyone here. We're all empathic, highly empathic. So it's like, how vulnerable are we in a sense? And I think a lot of us have gone through that. Remember those days where you were constantly being exposed to energy and energy and energy? Is that not a state of vulnerability where it used to just it freaking be pushed and pulled 16 different ways in the same day because you're picking up all the energy around people around you and situations and this and that? And I had a friend that was highly empathic that spent most of the day crying every day just
Oh,
because
wow.
she couldn't get through her day because it was just so much she was being exposed to, just bombarded with. And I think, in a sense, we're probably pros on it. This group of ours here, we're probably freaking pros on dealing with vulnerability because many of us being empathic, and that's even when you start realizing you have these gifts of even being vulnerable enough just to discuss it. Because
Hmm.
many of us haven't had the internet at our fingertips, or at
Hmm.
least in any viable form where you could go look up information. Well, we had books and things like that, but then you have to go through the vulnerability of going to the library and looking up those specific, going using the Dewey Decimal System and looking up and having those books you checked out being on your library card permanently, because they track those sort of things.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's an interesting, really interesting question you came up with tonight, Trista.
Um, what kind of strength does it actually take to be emotionally honest?
Jeez,
There's strength there. It's strength to be vulnerable, right? It's a dichotomy.
I think it's
indeed.
strength in knowing yourself too.
Hmm. Oh, for sure, for sure. Maybe it's kind of rhetorical.
Well, one more time.
What what kind of strength does it actually take to be emotionally honest
As an
or
intuitive,
to stand in your truth?
so few people are honest with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I, honest with themselves. I mean, that takes strength to be honest with yourself. That takes incredible amount of strength. And it's a rare find. And that's the fun thing about being an intuitive. You know what buttons are. When you know where the buttons are, you know who you're talking to. So, I mean, I can meet someone right away and know enough about them. And unfortunately, it has gotten me to trouble. And like, how do you know that? And I got to go, oh, and I have no answer.
But that's a gleam, though, too. That's a gleam. So don't be too hard on yourself because you're gleaming. We all gleam from people
Oh,
unintentionally.
I'm not hard on myself. I'm just like, how do I back out of this? Vulnerability. How do I back out of this? And it's, again, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution.
Oh, okay.
And that's the problem, you know. Sometimes I meet somebody and I know enough about them, you know, just from a brief conversation. So, and I also know when people are lying to themselves and know, okay, I can't touch that. That's the third wheel with that person. Everyone knows that, but no one discusses it with them. Okay. Unfortunately, I tend to discuss it with them by accident because my brain wants to fix this. And you can't fix everyone, but that doesn't mean I won't. Yeah, it's fun being an intuitive, but it also gets you into a lot of trouble.
Do any of you see your vulnerability as a strength in yourself yet, or is it still something? I mean, that's kind of presumptuous, or is it something that you're working on?
If my vulnerability is me being open and open-minded and open, I mean, yeah, it's a strength. For me, I find it to be a strength. If not, I would be acting the other way.
Same.
Same. Yeah, very much so. Being open and being able to go with the flow. If that's a vulnerability, then I'm there all day. I don't look at it as, I don't look at, I don't really sit and parse through myself and say, oh, I have this vulnerability. Oh, I'm vulnerable there. It's more like something happens and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm having an experience. So now, oh, maybe I have a vulnerability there. And why am I experiencing
Yeah.
it? Back to the why. Always back to the why.
So being honest and telling people exactly how you feel is vulnerable.
It can be.
But that would also mean that if you're vulnerable, if you're honest with someone and caring what they feel about you, that makes you vulnerable. But for me, I don't care what other people think about me because that's their problem, not mine. So this might be the vulnerability. Karen was talking about definitions. I think she's got a good point there, is that a lot of this is me trying to get my mind around something that my brain doesn't function normally. You know, being honest is just something easy, but it also, honesty is what a lot of people don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Kind of lost me there, to be honest.
Well, and some of it is structure too, because I knew somebody that was in my life, and they didn't like to resolve a potential conflict. They always had to go a certain route, and it was just the way they're structured, the way they were built. They always had to have a big fight first, or oh no, I want to fight. And who was that? Oh, that person was a Leo. Go figure. But they wanted to have a big fight first, knock down, drag out. I'm not talking physical, just argue, argue. And saying that to a Pisces, really? Come on. And the thing is that it had to get, before it could be resolved, there had to be a big fight. And I think some of it is just your structure of dealing with things when it comes to being vulnerable. I think that's probably an individual take there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like their frustration, so they act out. Because I've known people like that too, that they get stressed or triggered and they feel out of control, and it's like a little kid throwing a tantrum.
And it's not just
That or
Leos.
that's,
We love our Leos.
yeah,
Sorry.
better. Um,
Yes,
that
this
or that's
person
just
wasn't a Leo.
how they were taught, right? I mean, it depends on our childhood and everything that we go through as to what we're going to draw on when we reach conflict, right? So what we're taught and what we're experienced can really affect how we're going to, like, what tools we're going to use to address things that that create that unsettledness in us, right? So some people are good at talking things through, and some people just never did that, and their families didn't do that, and they don't know that as an option.
Hmm.
And then there's people who maybe were around it so much that they pull back, and that's not the way they want to go because they've seen, it being destructive or what have you, or uncomfortable. So I think a lot of times, it just depends on where we came from as to how we're gonna deal with that kind of thing.
I think
I don't
that
know. I
falls
feel like
more
I'm way
into.
out, way out in left field, aren't I?
No, I think that what you're
No.
saying, that what you're describing, I would think that that would fall more into emotional intelligence. So if you're saying
Mhm.
that this
Mhm.
person has never known any better, then because they haven't learned any better, so they don't know it. Whereas the person
Mhm.
who's tried to figure out, okay, I don't want to be like that, and you read on it, you learn somehow, then you've acquired that emotional intelligence on how to deal with things like that.
Mhm.
Chat's busy. I'm trying to keep one eye on the chat.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's twelve
Jimenez
twelve.
said a lot of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think being emotionally honest is not the same as being vulnerable. I think it depends, right? It depends what you're being emotionally honest about. And that's the thing, like, because I don't see it that way and I don't feel vulnerability in sharing things like that usually. I mean, I guess it always is going to depend on the situation, but if I don't feel vulnerable in it, then is it vulnerability? There's another hook.
Well, in a sense, you're vulnerable everywhere you go. If you drive every day, you're being vulnerable to hundreds of other people driving around you. But we
Hmm.
don't sit there and, so I think Diana's point here, we don't sit and, oh my God, I'm vulnerable, I'm vulnerable, I'm vulnerable. You probably wouldn't be able to live very much if you're in a constant state of vulnerability.
Hmm. Or constantly worrying about it.
You know, and another thing that comes to mind is who's so vulnerable, but children, right? So when you are childlike in the way that you are for certain things, right? That you are just open to it, and children don't know any fear until it's put in them, so they're going to be pure vulnerable. Like
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm. And then Jimena says, I'm honest and authentic, and I'm not putting myself in situations where I feel vulnerable because vulnerability means I could get hurt. That's how I see it. And then I have a question here. How do you personally recognize a person who is safe to be vulnerable with? That leads into that quite well.
I think Victor applied that earlier when he said that he tells people something, and when they
Hmm.
betray that trust, you know you cannot be vulnerable around that person. Once someone betrays that trust, you know.
Yeah, it depends on yeah, I think we would all probably address it a little bit differently. I'm kind of the same way because I'll just, yeah, but I don't do it consciously. It's just like, this is who I am. And then, if I get bit because of it, then that's a lesson.
yeah, but
But
it's a lesson, but
yeah, yeah.
shame on them, because you walking around in your authenticity is beautiful. It is beautiful for not only for you, but for everyone you interact with. Because,
hmm
hey, I'm going to do this. And so don't ever, I'm not speaking this to everyone, is if you're walking around there living your truth, and somebody wants to use that against you, hey, that's on them. To Lucky's point an hour ago, that is on them. Because if you're walking in your truth, hey,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree.
Well,
Because we do.
it can make you vulnerable, Jimena. Because somebody might, if you might say something, and then they turn around and try to twist it 16 different ways to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So in a
Right.
sense,
Well, that's the dichotomy, though,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because again, like Jimena, I find strength in that, and maybe going into it with that mindset helps that as well, right? Where if I can beat people to the punch and like, and I don't like saying control the narrative because that's like has a negative connotation, but it kind of is what it is, right? If you meet people there before they get there, I
Oh.
feel like there's something in that that's really powerful too, in a nice way, not a power way.
I got a great example of that, but I'm not going to share
Yeah.
that.
Oh, okay.
But I did.
Oh, awesome topic tonight, Trista. Awesome
It
topic.
was.
Let's see if
I
there's
like that.
anything. I know I don't want to keep you too long, but let's just see. Any red flags that someone can't hold your vulnerability that you can think of off the top of your head?
Do you want us to name names?
No.
What?
No.
Red flags.
What flags for what?
Not a list. Red flags of things that would give you a sign that maybe that person is not a good person to be vulnerable around.
Oh, well, constant gossiping, maybe. Because if somebody's a
Yeah,
gossip, they're going to gossip about you, just like
yeah,
they do the people they're gossiping about.
yeah. I know someone like that, but I'm like, okay, I don't know how confidential this is going to be,
Right.
and it's someone who should be confidential,
Hmm.
and we'll leave it at that. Da, 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 da.
Someone that behaves like a stalker? I don't know. You may not want to be too vulnerable with them. Tell me your schedule or anything like that.
What has vulnerability taught you personally? No.
Can't trust anybody. Humans. You can't
Oh,
trust humans.
jeez. Okay,
Cats,
I'm the opposite.
cats and dogs. Yes, dogs. Animals. 100% trust them. People, not a single one.
Because honestly, considering how often I do put myself in vulnerable positions, I have been hurt surprisingly not very much in the grand scheme of things.
I came
If
from
we're
a
if we're going to do a
don't.
ratio, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I came from a don't trust anybody to now being like more relaxed and open, and, and that's a good feeling.
Yeah, that's nice,
Well,
and that was going to
there's
be
freedom in it. There's freedom
yeah,
in it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yes.
totally. Yeah, another question I had here was how has your relationship with vulnerability changed over time, which you kind of addressed there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, what would you say to your past self? That's kind of the same idea about being open and real. But yeah, I think that's all I've got. I mean, I've got more, but it is well after an hour. So we should probably wrap it up, right? We don't want to do another hour and 45 minutes like we did last time I hosted or the time before, whatever it was.
It was still fun. Still fun.
It was
Hmm.
fun. It's got me still thinking even because it's true. There's a little nuance there with that whole vulnerability thing. And I know someone was talking about how it's an adjective and not a verb, and
Hmm.
so there's a lot to it. But I think
Yeah.
it was a great topic. Thank you, and definitely something I think a lot of
Ooh.
people are
I
experiencing right now.
I do want to just mention Misha's comment here because she says, Trista, me too. If someone is going to leave me, let it be early and let it be because they can't handle me. And that's part of it too, is if you just like let it all hang out, then, you know, the garbage takes itself out. Like, okay, if you don't like me as I am, then that's fine. Then go, you know? So yeah, I agree. Yeah, and people who aren't aligned with us will leave. Amanda says too. Yeah,
Like attracts like.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Alrighty. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for
Thank you.
coming, and thanks for all of your wisdom and brilliance, everybody, panel and chat. I love you all. And we'll see you next week, unless anybody has anything else. No, Victor's waving.
Have a good week.
All right, namaste, my
Bye.
friends.
Take care.
Love
Bye
you all.
bye. Love you
Love ya.
guys.